Welcome to the MSDW Podcast. I'm Jason Gumpert, editor at msdynamicsworld.com. And on this episode, my guest is Brent Fisher. Brent leads the D365 Business Central and Dynamics NAV practice at DXC Eclipse. Before that, he led the Dynamics NAV practice at TriBridge, which was acquired by DXC Technology last year. Brent knows all sorts of NAV and Dynamics 365 Business Central stuff. We'll be talking about that. And on a related note, we'll be talking about the Directions North America 2018 event. Brent is on the Directions board, and he is managing content within the planning committee for the event, which kicks off on September 30th in San Diego. MSDW is a media sponsor. I will be there too, so I'm excited to get a bit of a sneak preview here today on the podcast. So, Brent, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being here.
You bet. Thank you, Jason.
So I did get that right. I thought maybe be helpful to clarify just a bit. You're leading Business Central and NAV at DXC Eclipse now. Many people know you from TriBridge, but I think that's sort of a natural progression given the acquisition of TriBridge, right?
Yeah, that's right. So people in my past may come across me working at TriBridge, and we were acquired by DXC Technology last year. It's really great. Two teams, really. We had a team at TriBridge focused on NAV and Business Central, and so did the Eclipse team. And we came together, and over the past several months, we've merged together as one team focused on NAV and Business Central. And I lead that overall, and then focus on our SMB strategy, which kind of spans Microsoft and some other solutions. So I get to see kind of the front end of opportunities and talking with customers and kind of learning about where they're going to next.
Very good. I'm sure that is no small task trying to merge a variety of different acquired teams, even if they're all Dynamics focused. So I'm sure that's been quite an effort. But yeah, let's dive into it. So maybe you've told us a little bit about what you're doing these days and what your role entails. What's your role with the Directions board? The event itself, right?
Right. So, I've been attending Directions conference for, I've probably been to almost every one over the past 8 years or so. Over the past 3 years, this is my third year being on the board. So we do a 3-year stint on the board, and then, offer up to get reelected or nominated again. My focus the last 2 years has been on content. So this year I led the content team, and we had volunteers both on the board and outside of the board that have been helping putting together content, and then working directly with marketing at Microsoft and their team there on the content that Microsoft is bringing.
All right. I would say I probably said this last year, because now you've been to many more Directions than I have. I think I've been to 3 at this point, but it really is a great event. And I think I might have said this last year, but it's an event that last year I thought was going to be just sort of very highly anticipated by partners. I think it was, but I feel like that's a perfect way to describe this year's event too, from my perspective. I think with updates to Business Central rolling out this fall, I don't think there could be a year where it was more anticipated in terms of what partners hope to get from Microsoft.
I would totally agree. Last year, the past couple of years, right, we're evolving as what I would maybe say the SMB market, it's evolving. So evolving into cloud-first technology, the changing in the product, the naming change. Last year, as we talked through, it wasn't Business Central at that point. It was the Business Edition, and there was components of it, and there was some unknown of what is the path that NAV is going down, and what is the path of Dynamics 365, at that time being called the Business Edition. There was some messaging that wasn't maybe the greatest that partners wanted to hear from Microsoft, but I think what's great about this event, and I've seen this twice, big changes in the technology and the product where this event specifically influenced Microsoft, and the ability to talk to leadership at Microsoft, product managers, give feedback and real tactical things that are happening to, directly to partners and customers and third parties and ISVs, that we can make change and influence change. And if you, if you think about this year and, with the release of Business Central in April and the ongoing changes and the changes that will be announced in October and what's coming that we'll see at Directions with the content that's being brought, it's a major point in kind of the evolution of Dynamics NAV, and I believe the SMB market for Microsoft.
You made a great point about listening. I think that was really evident last year from what I recall. I felt like people, there was sort of a interesting sort of series of ups and downs during the event, but that was certainly clear that Microsoft was there not only to sort of explain things, but they certainly, representatives of the company definitely heard what partners were giving back. And so, whereas, if they weren't doing that, I think a lot of attendees would have left pretty unhappy or frustrated. I think a lot of them felt like they were actually heard sort of in real time as the event went on. It was pretty interesting. Maybe not the kind of thing you get at every conference, I would say.
Yeah, Microsoft's making a huge investment of the amount of people that they bring. They're bringing people that this is their life, right? Mm-hmm. This is part of, everything they do with building the product, marketing the product, learning about, how they can make change. So they're investing a lot of people here. And I think it's, Marco did a very good job, kind of that whole evolution from, I think, the first day, maybe people were wanting to throw tomatoes or pitchforks at Marco to really kind of listening and providing some feedback and closing with, hey, this is, some things that we'll go back to our teams and make some adjustments with. And I believe they have. I believe Business Central, I'm very high on and bullish on the product itself and the vision of where it's going. There's some things that we're going to have to figure out along the way, but from a strategy and overall perspective, I really like what Microsoft is doing. So, yes, Jason, I think I encourage partners. This is an opportunity to. There's not customers here. This is a partner event led by partners. We're all in this together. And dependent a lot on Microsoft and the product and the technology it brings. So I think it's our obligation as a community to provide feedback. And if there's things that we don't like, that we voice that in a way that's constructive. If there's things that are going well, likewise, we should be positive and give that feedback to Microsoft.
I've had a couple of really interesting sort of opinion pieces written by Microsoft MVPs and others recently about the future, kind of thinking about what is really the future of the NAV or Business Central partner. What's their role going to be in the Microsoft channel compared to what it has been? I mean, I think the consensus of those voices seems to be that there's definitely change coming, but what is it exactly going to mean for their businesses? Do you have any sense of what some of those kind of questions are going to be from partners to Microsoft, and any predictions of what kind of concerns they're going to be bringing to the event?
I think we, from a content perspective, we've allowed, several sessions around more of a town hall QA type feel. I'll actually be hosting one with Marco and Toby, just a couple. We're going to do 2 sessions of Q&A, similar to one we did last year, but really getting feedback and asking some of those tough questions, after they hear information, but also having some of those conversations, just partners together, right? That it's not kind of directed at, this partner, how are you evolving as a business? What are you seeing that you need to change, and really learning together? That's what we're trying to bring from a content perspective. If I could predict what people are going to ask, is there's several questions around the ISV community and app source and monetizing on that. from events, from a technical perspective, what's available, what's going to improve, some of the enhancements to be able to migrate data or have sandbox environments and licensing and pricing that's always going to be asked about, and what's Microsoft's margins and what are they taking from their aspect. And if I look at it and say, okay, change is what the end customer and the end buyer desire, though. So we can't continue to service customers in a way we did 10 and 15 years ago. I think the buyer and the customer expectations have changed with technology and with how applications are delivered today. So I think, it's not just Microsoft that's making changes that we have to adapt to. Our customers and buyers of technology are changing. So we have to figure out how do we evolve, what services can we provide. And there's a lot of opportunity, with Business Central and surrounding Power Suite applications that we can provide customers.
Yeah, it's always fascinating to hear from people who can put it in that perspective. Here's what my customers or my prospective customers are expecting from me. Here's how I'm going to shape the offerings that Microsoft has to meet that and to win deals that way, rather than here's what Microsoft says I should be doing going to market. There's you hear both approaches sort of represented from people, whether it's in the Dynamics channel, I would say, whether it's conscious or not that they're taking one side or the other. But I think maybe that's part of your point there.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Microsoft is going to take feedback and continues to improve the product and stay ahead from a technology perspective to compete with other products, and building it on a great platform and being under the Dynamics 365 umbrella and family. I actually think we should embrace that. That's a huge marketing win for us. Microsoft is heavily invested in and compensated, right, to bring customers to Dynamics 365. So we fall under that umbrella with Business Central. So I think we should leverage that. And also, there's so many opportunities to maybe take some broader risk or some changes into what we're doing, right? Maybe it's not just so heavy ERP focused, but what do I think of entire solution set? And that can involve the customer engagement side, the document management and SharePoint and Office 365 and analytics and data. So what am I providing to the customer from a full solution set? And Microsoft has that technology. How do we wield it to make the best solution for our customers? So I tend to think of things that way versus, hey, it's just it's just NAV and I'm focused on this piece. Now I need to broaden it to what is my customer pain point and what am I using to leverage from a technology standpoint to satisfy their pain.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to imagine if Microsoft's going to sort of help sort of identify, put a spotlight on particular partners at the event to stand up and talk about their experiences, it's going to be those people who have led teams that have done what you just described. And I've heard from a few of those, and it certainly sounds what you're saying and what I've heard from others certainly makes a lot of sense. That is probably the model for success that Microsoft's going to want to push to. I was curious, maybe if we could run through maybe a few of the stats or numbers or sort of ways of detailing sort of what this event really looks like, if you have some of that information. So for example, I was thinking of mixes of. Do you kind of have a sense of the mix of sort of geographic? I know it's sort of billed as a North America event. Is it mostly U.S., Canada, and Mexico, or are you seeing people coming in from Europe to get maybe a double dose of Directions conferences or anywhere else?
Yeah, we are. I mean, primarily it's U.S. heavy focused. A lot of attendees from Canada, some from Mexico as well. I want to say we're we're thinking 900 to 1,000 people at the event this year. And I think there's going to be a heavy concentration of people from Canada at the event. Overseas, it's, I would say there's probably MVPs that might be MVPs with Microsoft that are speaking or being involved in the content or some of the topics or workshops that we have. And then there are partners and partners and team members that are coming that they may want a flavor of, what is it that might be said here that might be different from EMEA or the other directions. But I would say majority is here in the U.S. There are definitely a lot of people from Microsoft. So, I would say if you're going, right, really take advantage of connecting with, they've got sales solution, team members, technical solution people. There's a breakout room with Microsoft support. So I think there's 5 or 6 Microsoft support people. So most likely you've engaged with them through email or phone calls. It's great to put a face with a name or bring an issue that they can try to help solve. That's what they're there for. And then there's product teams, right, that are building the solution, and whether they work on the this functionality or the back end or the integration side. It's a great way to connect with those Microsoft people and understand. Go ahead, Jason.
I was going to mention, is there still time to register if someone's listening to this and sort of makes a final decision of whether they're going to go or not?
There is. We're starting to get into that. Hey, we're about to start creating all the badges and everything, so I would say register now. Mm-hmm. But even if you show up, right, we'll figure out a way that you can be there. There's day passes as well if it's just something that's very last minute. But yes, you can still sign up.
Excellent. What about the mix of people in terms of their existing expertise? Are you seeing people coming in who are maybe new to Business Central, or folks who, for example, focus on GP? Mm-hmm. I'm just sort of thinking of potential, other types of profiles. Any sense of that?
We had a heavy focus this year on, and that was really from feedback from others that they gave to us, is how do we go deeper in some of the learning, specific product. It's good to hear what's coming and maybe look back at what's been released over the past couple of years and look at best practices or tips and tricks. So we always want to provide that content, but we're also getting new people into the community, whether they're adding Business Central on as another area to focus on. So we have attendees that maybe they're primarily focused on SharePoint or Office 365 and they're getting into this, or maybe they were on Dynamics SL and have a big SL or GP customer base and they're wanting to add on with Business Central. So what we've done is we have a full track that takes you from new to NAV, new to Business Central, starting really from the journey of, hey, how do I even become a partner? We have a workshop even on the first day that is focused on these partners that are looking or interested in getting into the community. Maybe they represent one product or they're on the outskirts of not getting into the ERP side. So we have, how do you become a partner? What does it look like if you want to work with a CSP or indirectly with the CSP through what's available from a demo and tool set perspective, to then actually getting into the hardcore meat of the product itself. So technical and kind of configuration, functional implementation training. We see a mix of people that come to the event: development, technical. We have implementers, trainers, functional type consultants that are there. Tracks for leadership. This is a big year of, as the product and what is evolving. How do we change our organizations to adjust to that model. A lot of leadership and maybe kind of the executive type of track, and sales and marketing, focused, content of how we deliver content, what's working, what's not working. So really it spans all types of people, and looking to give content that you could bring multiple people from your organization, and there's value across in every session, every hour, every breakout. There's something that you could spread a whole team across and gain value.
I'm particularly interested to see how sort of, I guess, Microsoft portrays or positions, I should say, the ISV story in terms of how hard they're going to push on sort of the value of developing on Business Central as a platform, or tying your solution into it,
Mm-hmm.
either natively or tying it in as an integration. That's just one. I think it's a huge, it's a kind of thing Microsoft wants to turn in a positive way. I'm just interested to see how much real discussion there is of that in particular. It's just one more thing that kind of comes to mind.
I think so. I mean, it's, Microsoft from a content perspective is definitely going to bring what's changing.
Mm-hmm.
What's the market opportunity really like, and pricing and licensing, what's the right approach? How do you kind of bundle your solution offering? But then we're also have some carve out sessions that, let's hear from some other partners that have gone down this path. What's working? What doesn't work? What to avoid? What are they doing to be successful? Some open Q&A with partners like that, so we can really talk through it and share success stories, but also what does Microsoft have to change? What do we need as a voice from a community? There's strength in numbers. If one partner, a couple of partners are voicing this thing, or we're getting this feedback to Microsoft. But if we can rally a bigger voice, that's where I think the strength of the community can come from. So let's put everything out on the table and let's deal with it, and try to bring sessions and let Microsoft hear that feedback, but also work together and see, yes, we may compete in an area, but we're better together when we're both successful. So that's some of the things that we're going to do from a content perspective, and make sure that we're learning together.
Right. As you sort of look ahead to the event, are there any other sessions? You already mentioned at least a couple that you're involved with leading. Are there any others that you're particularly looking forward to?
Yeah, we named a few of them kind of this 2.0, or maybe it's the 3.0 version. What does the consultant 2.0 look like? What does your support model 2.0 look like? So we have 3 or 4 sessions around that I'm really interested in. How are we evolving as a community? How are you taking your professional service organization, where the buyer wants to buy less up front and expand over time, and maybe you're historically used to a big license sale and the cash flows going, you get that big bump of cash flow up front? Well, that's changing. So how are partners evolving to make sure that they can continue to have success? So those kind of 2.0 sessions, I'm really looking forward to. I think there'll be some good debate. Obviously, the keynotes and learning are always a great one to see. The Q&As, I think, provide a lot of interaction, which I mentioned in the past. There's some kind of the future forecasting. So, what does this look like 3 to 5 years from now? There's a few sessions like that. The workshops, I think, we've had great feedback from some of the workshops that we put on and had people lead that really dive deep into the product and learning and getting feedback from someone that's a lot smarter than me right there that can help answer questions and guide you along. So I think the workshops is just a ton of value that you'll get from attending those.
All right. Well, I look forward to being there. I've actually never been to San Diego, so great.
It's like the best weather all the time.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
So.
And if anyone's going for the first time this year, the directions team really puts on great events. They're very comfortable. They're very enjoyable. The venues are always outstanding. So if you're going for a first time, I'm sure you'll enjoy that as well. Yeah, and there's just undoubtedly going to be a lot to learn this year. I mean, like you said, I think that sort of 2.0 or next generation of these things is really a good way to summarize it, because there's so much thinking going on about transformation, as I think I mentioned kind of early on, because that was maybe the first thing I thought of as we get into this sort of fall conference season here with, there's Ignite coming up next week, followed by Directions, and there's user conferences right after that. So yeah, certainly getting into a busy time here.
A lot going on in the fall. I think we're blessed to have sponsors that, a lot of these sponsors and that helped us make this successful, right?
Sure.
Are going back to back to back, and we see that, we value that, and I would encourage people that attending really go speak with them, right? They're there for a purpose, right? And you can gain so many connections, and you may not have a specific need, but talk to them and find out what that company does, because you never know where maybe you can help complete the value chain to your customer, and their solution is the right one, or maybe they're involved and you can help them out. So really encourage people to do that. I like to connect people, and if I hear, hey, you're having this issue, and I know someone that had a similar issue, or I know of a solution that you may want to take a look at, come find me, or anybody on the Directions board will be more than happy to kind of connect you to people. I'm not shy, so I could talk to anyone. So if you're shy about talking, I would encourage you to really take time in expo halls, talking to the people there and going through all the sponsor booths. There's a wealth of knowledge you can gain from just talking to people.
That's true. I have seen you at events, and you're tough to get a hold of, because you're usually with one or two people chatting or more. So very true. Cool. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I think maybe we'll end it there, unless you had anything else you wanted to just call out before we wrap up.
No, I think that's great, Jason. Thank you for having me, and I look forward to this event every year, and looking forward to seeing some faces that I've seen in the past, but also some new faces and getting to know some other people.
All right. Yeah, for sure. Well, I look forward to it too. And I think we'll wrap it up there. So this has been another episode of the MSDW Podcast. Thanks again, Brent. Really appreciate it. And if you have any feedback or want to get in touch, you can reach me, jgumpert@msdynamicsworld.com. Until next time, this is MS Dynamics World signing off.